What if I told you these 10 1-cent coins are not just pennies? They represent 10 different years, different moments in history. Most people see loose change, but collectors see hidden stories and sometimes hidden value. Each of these pennies carries its own mint year, its own journey, and possibly a different worth. Stay with me as we look closely at all 10 1-cent coins, because one small detail can change everything. Coin number 1. The United States 1-cent coin, shown here, dated 1998, belongs to the long-running Lincoln cent series, one of the most recognized and historically significant coins in American numismatics. The story of this coin begins in 1909, when the United States Mint introduced the Lincoln cent to commemorate the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. Prior to 1909, cents featured symbolic representations such as Lady Liberty, but the Lincoln cent marked the first time an historical figure appeared on a regular issue American coin intended for circulation. The obverse portrait of Abraham Lincoln was designed by Victor David Brenner, whose initials, VDB, originally appeared prominently on the reverse of the 1909 coins, sparking public controversy that led to their temporary removal and later discreet restoration in 1918. On the obverse from 1909 to 1958, the reverse design featured 2 wheat ears framing the words 1 cent, creating what collectors now call the wheat penny. In 1959, to mark the 105th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, the reverse was redesigned to display the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. design, created by Frank Gasp. This memorial reverse remained in use for 50 years, from 1959 until 2008, making it one of the longest-running reverse designs in U.S. coinage history. The 1998 1-cent coin falls within this memorial reverse era, meaning its reverse depicts the Lincoln Memorial with the inscriptions, "The United States of America, e pluribus unum," and 1 cent. Interestingly, careful observers can see a tiny representation of the seated statue of Lincoln inside the memorial, between the central columns, making this coin unique in that Lincoln appears on both obverse and reverse. Regarding composition, the Lincoln cent has undergone several metallic changes due to economic pressures and wartime needs. From 1909 until 1942, cents were composed primarily of 95% copper, with small amounts of tin and zinc. In 1943, due to copper shortages during World War II, the mint produced steel cents coated with zinc, known today as steel pennies. In 1944, copper composition resumed, using recycled wartime shell casings. By the early 1980s, rising copper prices again made production costly, leading to a major change in 1982, when the mint shifted from mostly copper to a zinc composition, consisting of 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper plating. The 1998 Lincoln cent is therefore made primarily of zinc with a thin copper coating, weighs approximately 2.5 grams, and has a diameter of 19.05 millimeters. During 1998, the United States Mint produced billions of Lincoln cents across multiple mint facilities, including Philadelphia and Denver, with mint marks P and D, respectively, while proof versions were struck in San Francisco, bearing the S mint mark. The large mintage reflects the continued everyday use of the penny in American commerce, even as debates about its practicality and production cost persisted. The inscriptions on the obverse, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date 1998 traditions added over decades. "In God We Trust" first appeared on US coins during the Civil War era in the 1860s, while Liberty has been a foundational inscription since the earliest days of the U.S. Mint in 1792. The phrase, "E pluribus unum," meaning "out of many, one," has appeared on American coinage since the 18th century and symbolizes the union of the states into one nation. By 1998, the Lincoln cent had become more than small change. It was a cultural and historical icon circulating through generations of Americans. Children collected them in coin folders. Businesses counted them in daily transactions, and collectors searched for rare varieties such as doubled dies, off-center strikes, and transitional errors. Although most 1998 pennies are common and hold face value, certain high-grade, uncirculated examples or error varieties can carry collector premiums. The Lincoln Memorial Reverse era concluded in 2008, and in 2009, the Mint issued for special reverse designs commemorating the bicentennial of Lincoln's birth, followed in 2010 by the Union Shield Reverse that remains in use today. Therefore, the 1998 Lincoln cent represents the closing decade of the memorial design period, connecting modern American coinage with a legacy that began in 1909 as part of everyday circulation. This coin embodies over a century of design evolution, economic adaptation, patriotic symbolism, and national memory, making even a simple 1998 1-cent coin a tangible link to American history, presidential commemoration, artistic craftsmanship, and the enduring identity of the United States Mint. Coin number 2, the 1974 United States 1-cent coin, commonly known as the 1974 Lincoln cent, is part of one of the most historic and longest-running coin series in American history, the Lincoln Cent series, that began in 1909. To commemorate the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed originally by Victor David Brenner, the obverse of the coin features the right-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln, making it the first regular-issue U.S. coin to depict a real historical figure, rather than a symbolic representation such as Lady Liberty. The reverse of the 1974 cent belongs to the Lincoln Memorial design era, which began in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. This reverse was designed by Frank Gasparow and depicts the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., including a small but remarkable detail. Between the central columns of the memorial, the seated statue of Lincoln can be seen, meaning Lincoln appears on both sides of the coin. The inscriptions on the obverse include "In God We Trust," above Lincoln's portrait, a motto first added to U.S. coinage during the Civil War period in the 1860s. Liberty to the left, reflecting one of the nation's founding principles present on American coins since the late 18th century. The date, 1974, to the right, along with a mint mark if struck outside Philadelphia. In 1974, Lincoln cents were produced at the Philadelphia Mint, no mint mark, and the Denver Mint with a D mint mark, while proof versions were struck at the San Francisco Mint bearing the S mint mark for collectors. During the early 1970s, the United States faced significant economic challenges, including inflation and rising metal prices, which directly affected coin production costs. At that time, the cent was still composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc, weighing approximately 3.11 grams and measuring 19.05 millimeters in diameter. However, the increasing cost of copper was becoming a serious concern for the U.S. Mint, as the intrinsic metal value of the coin was approaching its face value. Because of this, experimental aluminum cents were produced in 1974. As a possible alternative composition, over 1 million aluminum cents were reportedly struck in trial production, but they were never officially released into circulation due to concerns from Congress, the vending machine industry, and medical professionals who worried about detection issues in X-rays. If swallowed, most of these aluminum cents were ordered to be destroyed, making surviving examples extremely rare and controversial. The standard 1974 bronze cent, therefore, represents one of the final years before the major composition change that would occur in 1982, when the Mint transitioned to a copper-plated zinc core to reduce production costs. In terms of mintage, billions of 1974 cents were produced, reflecting the heavy demand for denomination coinage in everyday commerce during that era. Despite their high mintage and general commonness in circulated condition, circa 1974, Lincoln cents are highly sought after by collectors, particularly error varieties such as doubled die obverse coins, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, and other minting anomalies. They grade uncirculated examples with strong red luster, especially from original mint rolls. Can also command premiums in the numismatic market. The 1974 cent sits within a broader historical context of the Lincoln Memorial reverse period, which lasted from 1959 until 2008. Making it one of the longest continuously used reverse designs in American coinage history. The Lincoln Memorial design itself symbolized national unity and remembrance, tying the small 1 cent denomination to the memory of a president who preserved the Union during the Civil War. By 1974, the Lincoln cent had already been in circulation for 65 years, passing through multiple generations of Americans and witnessing major events such as 2 world wars, the Great Depression, the Civil Rights Movement, and the Cold War. The coin, thus, represents not only a small monetary unit, but also a cultural artifact reflecting economic trends, political symbolism, artistic design, evolution, and national identity. As part of daily transactions in 1974 America, this coin would have circulated during a time of economic uncertainty, energy crises, and shifting global dynamics. Yet it carried the same enduring image of Lincoln that had become familiar in pockets, cash registers, and coin jars across the country. Today, the 1974 Lincoln cent remains an accessible yet historically meaningful piece for collectors and enthusiasts, symbolizing the closing chapter of the nearly pure copper era and standing as a reminder of how even the smallest denomination of currency can reflect broader stories of innovation, adaptation, and American heritage within the long and continuing legacy of the United States Mint. The 1976 United States 1 cent coin, commonly known as the 1976 Lincoln cent, is part of the historic Lincoln cent series that began in 1909 and remains one of the most iconic and longest-running coin programs in American history. The origin of the Lincoln cent dates back to the administration of President Theodore Roosevelt, who sought to beautify American coinage and introduce more artistic designs. In 1909, to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, sculptor Victor David Brenner designed the obverse portrait of Lincoln, making it the first regularly circulating US coin to feature a real historical figure rather than a symbolic liberty image. By 1976, this portrait had already been in continuous use for 67 years, making it one of the most enduring designs in U.S. numismatic history. The reverse of the 1976 cent belongs to the Lincoln Memorial design era, introduced in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Designed by Frank Gasparro, the reverse depicts the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., with the inscriptions United States of America, E pluribus unum, and 1 cent. A remarkable detail of this design is that the tiny seated statue of Lincoln is visible between the central columns of the memorial, meaning Lincoln appears on both sides of the coin. The inscriptions on the obverse include, "In God We Trust," a motto first added to U.S. coinage during the Civil War in the 1860s, "Liberty," which has appeared on American coins since the nation's founding, and the date, along with a mint mark, if produced outside Philadelphia. In 1976, Lincoln cents were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, no mint mark, the Denver Mint, with a D mint mark, and proof versions were produced at the San Francisco Mint with an S mint mark specifically for collectors. The composition of the 1976 cent was 95% copper and 5% zinc, weighing approximately 3.11 grams, with a diameter of 19.05 millimeters. This composition places the 1976 coin within the final years of the traditional bronze cent era. As the United States Mint would later change the composition in 1982 to zinc due to rising copper prices and increasing production costs. The mid-1970s were marked by significant economic challenges in the United States. including high inflation and rising commodity prices, which affected the cost of minting coins. Despite these economic pressures, billions of 1976 Lincoln cents were produced to meet circulation demands, reflecting the continued reliance on the penny in everyday transactions. The year 1976 also holds special historical significance because it marked the bicentennial of the United States, celebrating 200 years since the Declaration of Independence in 1776, while special bison designs were created for the quarter, half-dollar, and dollar coins in 1975. 1976, the Lincoln cent retained its standard design, symbolizing continuity and stability during a major national celebration. As a result, the 1976 cent circulated alongside commemorative coins, representing both tradition and national pride during the bicentennial era. Although most 1976 cents are common in circulated condition and hold only face value, certain varieties and high-grade examples are sought after by collectors, including doubled die errors, off-center strikes, and coins preserved in brilliant, uncirculated red condition. The Lincoln Memorial Reverse era, which includes the 1976 cent, continued until 2008, before being replaced in 2009 by special bicentennial reverse designs, and later by the Union Shield Reverse, beginning in 2010. Therefore, the 1976 Lincoln cent represents a significant period in American coinage history, linking early 20th century artistic reform, mid-century commemorative redesign, and late 20th century economic transitions. Beyond its monetary value, this small bronze coin serves as a tangible artifact of American heritage, reflecting presidential commemoration, national symbolism, economic realities, and the enduring legacy of Abraham Lincoln on U.S. currency. Coin number 3. The 1988 United States 1-cent coin, widely known as the 1988 Lincoln cent, is part of the historic Lincoln cent series that has been in continuous production since its introduction in 1909, making it one of the longest-running coin designs in the history of world coinage. The series was first issued to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the birth of President Abraham Lincoln, and it marked a turning point in American numismatics because it was the first regularly circulating U.S. coin to feature an actual historical figure instead of the allegorical figure of liberty. The obverse portrait of Lincoln was created by sculptor Victor David Brenner, and despite minor refinements over the decades, his original artistic concept has endured, symbolizing stability and national continuity. By the time the 1988 cent was struck, Lincoln's portrait had already appeared on American pennies for nearly 8 decades, surviving multiple historical eras, including 2 world wars, the Great Depression, the Civil Rights Movement, and the Cold War. The reverse design of the 1988 cent belongs to the Lincoln Memorial era, which began in 1959, in honor of the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Designed by Frank Gus, the reverse depicts the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., along with the inscriptions United States of America, e unum, and 1 cent. A remarkable feature of this design is that the small, seated statue of Lincoln inside the memorial is visible between the columns, making this one of the rare coins in the world where the same historical figure appears on both sides. The obverse inscriptions include, "In God We Trust," a motto that first appeared on US coins during the Civil War and was officially adopted as the national motto in 1956, as well as liberty, a word deeply rooted in American identity since the founding of the nation, and to date, 1988, with a mint mark indicating its place of production. In 1988, Lincoln cents were struck at the Philadelphia Mint without a mint mark, the Denver Mint with a D mint mark, and proof versions were produced at the San Francisco Mint, bearing an S mint mark, specifically for collectors. By this time, the composition of the cent had already changed from the traditional bronze alloy to a more cost-effective copper-plated zinc core, a change implemented in 1982 due to rising copper prices that made the older 95% copper composition economically impractical. The 1988 cent therefore consists of 97.5% zinc, with a thin outer layer of 2.5%. Copper weighs approximately 2.5 grams and maintains the standard diameter of 19.05 millimeters. The late 1980s were characterized by economic expansion and technological growth in the United States, and billions of 1988 cents were produced to meet the steady demand for small-d currency in daily transactions. Although most 1988 Lincoln cents are common in circulated condition and hold only face value, collectors take interest in E-grade, uncirculated examples with full red mint luster and in specific varieties and mint errors. One particularly notable variety associated with this year is the 1988 reverse of 1989 variety, found on some Philadelphia and Denver issues, where a reverse die intended for 1989 coins was mistakenly used, resulting in subtle but collectible design differences in the lettering. Details of the memorial. Such transitional die varieties add technical and historical significance to certain examples of this otherwise common issue. The Lincoln Memorial reverse design remained in use until 2008, when it was replaced by special bicentennial reverse designs in 2009, celebrating the 200th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, followed by the introduction of the Union Shield reverse in 2010. As part of the modern copper-plated zinc era, the 1988 Lincoln cent represents a period of economic adaptation and production efficiency within the United States Mint, while still maintaining the long-standing artistic tribute to Abraham Lincoln. Though modest in value, the 1988 1-cent coin carries more than a century of heritage, reflecting presidential commemoration, evolving minting technology, economic challenges, and the enduring symbolism of liberty and unity that continues to define American coinage. The 1983 United States 1-cent coin is a significant issue within the Lincoln cent series that began in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth, marking the first time a real historical figure appeared on a regularly circulating American coin. The obverse portrait, designed by Victor David Brenner, presents Lincoln in dignified profile, facing right, accompanied by the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date, 1983, with the D mint mark positioned below the date to indicate production at the Denver Mint, a facility that has played a central role in supplying coinage for the Western United States since its establishment in 1906, and by 1983, the Lincoln cent had already endured through wars, economic crises, social transformation, and technological modernization, standing as one of the most stable visual symbols in American monetary history, embodying both national reverence for Lincoln's leadership during the Civil War and the enduring principles of unity, liberty, and democratic resilience that his legacy represents within the broader narrative of the United States Mint's evolution and production practices. The year 1983 falls within a pivotal transitional era for the Lincoln cent, as the composition of the coin had recently undergone a historic transformation in 1982 due to rising copper prices that made the long-standing bronze alloy of 95% copper economically unsustainable, leading the mint to adopt a new structure consisting of 97.5% zinc with a thin outer plating of 2.5% copper, thereby reducing production costs while maintaining the familiar copper appearance. The 1980 cent, therefore, weighs approximately 2.5 grams rather than the 3.11 grams of earlier bronze issues, and this metallurgical shift reflects broader economic pressures of the late 20th century, including inflationary trends and commodity volatility, illustrating how even the smallest denomination coin serves as a barometer of national economic conditions and governmental adaptation to fiscal realities, while preserving continuity in outward design. The reverse of the 1983D cent belongs to the Lincoln Memorial design era, introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Created by Frank Guest, whose architectural rendering of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. stands as a symbolic bridge between classical design and modern coinage engraving. The reverse inscriptions, United States of America, E pluribus unum, and 1 cent frame the memorial image, and within the central columns, the tiny seated statue of Lincoln can be discerned, making the Lincoln Memorial cent uniquely notable for depicting the same historical figure on both obverse and reverse, a rare achievement in global numismatic art that reinforces the thematic unity of the coins. Tribute and reflects the mint's dedication to honoring presidential heritage through consistent yet evolving artistic representation. Production of the 1983D cent occurred at the Denver Mint in vast quantities to meet nationwide circulation demand, as billions of cents were required annually for commerce, vending systems, and transactional rounding. And while most examples entered circulation immediately, the Mint also produced proof coins at the San Francisco Mint for collectors, though the Denver issues were primarily intended for everyday economic exchange. The high mintage figures of the 1983D cent underscore the persistent reliance on the penny, despite recurring debates regarding its cost efficiency and purchasing power, illustrating the complex interplay between tradition, public sentiment, legislative inertia, and practical monetary policy within the United States financial system during the early 1980s economic recovery period, following recessionary challenges at the start of the decade. Numismatically, the 1983D cent is particularly significant because 1983 is known for important varieties and mint errors, especially doubled die reverses, in which elements of the reverse inscriptions exhibit noticeable doubling due to die misalignment. During the hubbing process, such doubled die varieties have attracted considerable collector attention and scholarly study, as they represent mechanical anomalies within the minting process that become enduring artifacts of production history. And these varieties demonstrate how even in an era of advanced minting technology, human and mechanical variables could produce subtle yet valuable distinctions, transforming an otherwise common circulation coin into a prized collectible specimen, distinguished by clarity of doubling, preservation quality, and authenticated provenance. The broader historical context of 1983 situates the coin within the presidency of Ronald Reagan, a period marked by economic restructuring, renewed Cold War tensions, technological advancement, and shifting fiscal policies. And although the cent itself carries no explicit political imagery beyond Lincoln's enduring portrait, it circulated during a time of renewed national confidence and structural change, serving as a silent witness to transactions that reflected American daily life in supermarkets, banks, schools, and small businesses, and thereby functioning not only as currency, but also as a tangible artifact embedded within the lived experience of millions of citizens navigating a transforming economic and cultural landscape. From a technical perspective, the zinc core of the 1983D cent introduced new long-term preservation considerations, as exposure to moisture or environmental damage can lead to corrosion beneath the copper plating, sometimes resulting in blistering or surface degradation. And this vulnerability contrasts with the relative durability of earlier bronze cents, providing insight into the trade-offs inherent in cost-saving metallurgical decisions. Nonetheless, well-preserved, uncirculated 1983D cents, displaying full red luster, remain highly valued by collectors who seek specimens free from contact marks, plating, defects, or oxidation, illustrating the nuanced gradations of condition that define modern numismatic evaluation and the meticulous standards applied by grading institutions in assessing strike quality, surface integrity, and aesthetic appeal. The 1983D Lincoln cent stands within the continuum of the Lincoln Memorial reverse era that continued until 2008, before being succeeded by the bicentennial reverse designs of 2009 and the Union Shield reverse, beginning in 2010, thereby positioning the coin within a mature phase of a design period spanning nearly half a century, and its existence encapsulates themes of adaptation, continuity, and industrial precision, embodying the enduring tribute to Abraham Lincoln, while simultaneously reflecting economic recalibration, technological modernization, and the mass production capacity of the United States Mint, ensuring that this modest denomination coin remains an eloquent testament to American history, monetary evolution, and the sustained symbolic power of Lincoln's legacy in the national consciousness. This tiny 1-cent coin from 1962 may look ordinary, but its story connects America's past, hidden value, and the last era before U.S. coins changed forever. The 1962 Lincoln 1 cent is a classic piece of American coinage that represents stability, tradition, and the final years of an important era in U.S. minting history. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the Lincoln cent first appeared in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln, making it the first regular U.S. coin to feature a real historical person. By 1962, this design had already become one of the most recognizable coins in American life, found in nearly every pocket, cash register, and coin jar. Across the country, the obverse of the coin features Abraham Lincoln's right-facing portrait, surrounded by the inscriptions "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date, 1962. This design symbolized honesty, unity, and leadership during a time when the United States was facing major global tensions, including the Cold War and rapid social change. Lincoln's calm and thoughtful expression was intentionally chosen to reflect strength through wisdom, rather than force. On the reverse side, the 1962 cent displays the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959 to mark the 105th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. This was a historic change because, for the first time in U.S. coinage, the same person appeared on both sides of a coin. Lincoln's statue can actually be seen inside the memorial. If you look closely, the inscriptions "United States of America, E pluribus annum," and 1 cent complete the design, giving the coin a balanced and iconic appearance. What makes the 1962 Lincoln cent especially interesting is its metal composition. Unlike modern pennies, this coin was struck in 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving it a solid weight and rich tone that collectors truly appreciate today. Just 1 year later, rising copper prices would push the U.S. Mint toward major changes, making coins like the 1962 cent part of the last generation of traditional copper pennies. In 1962, millions of these cents were produced at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, which means most examples are common in circulated condition. However, collectors carefully search for high-grade uncirculated coins, proof versions, and coins with striking errors such as off-center strikes, doubled dies. For unusually strong details, these special examples can be worth significantly more than face value, especially when professionally graded. Beyond its monetary value, the 1962 Lincoln 1 cent is a time capsule of American daily life. It circulated during an era of optimism mixed with uncertainty. When space exploration was beginning, civil rights movements were growing, and the U.S. economy relied heavily on cash transactions. Every scratch and mark on this coin tells a story of hands it passed through. Store owners, children, workers, and families saving small change. Today, this coin holds a special place in numismatics, not because it is extremely rare, but because it represents the end of an era. It reminds collectors that even the smallest denomination can carry deep historical meaning, cultural significance, and long-term collectible value when preserved correctly. During the early 1960s, the Lincoln 1 cent was more than just a coin. It was a daily companion for millions of Americans. In 1962, this cent passed through grocery stores, gas stations, schools, and homes, quietly becoming part of everyday life. At a time when cash was the primary way people paid for goods, the 1-cent coin played an important role in even the smallest transactions, from buying candy to receiving change at local markets. The design of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse reflected a strong sense of national identity. Introduced only a few years earlier, the memorial symbolized respect, unity, and remembrance. Seeing this image on such a commonly used coin helped reinforce Abraham Lincoln's presence in American culture, not just as a historical figure, but as a symbol of integrity and perseverance. The United States was experiencing rapid social and technological change. While major events were shaping the nation's future, coins, like the Lincoln cent, remained unchanged, offering a sense of continuity. The familiar weight, color, and design of the copper cent connected generations, as parents and children alike handled the same type of coin every day. Minting techniques during this period focused on durability and consistency. The copper alloy used for the 1962 cent gave it strength, allowing many examples to survive decades of circulation. Over time, these coins naturally developed different tones and surfaces, reflecting the environments they passed through and the long journeys they made from hand to hand. As years passed, the 1962 Lincoln 1 cent slowly disappeared from daily circulation, replaced by newer issues and modern compositions. Yet, it remained present in jars, drawers, and collections, quietly preserved as a reminder of a simpler monetary era. Each surviving coin carries with it the atmosphere of the early 1960s, capturing the rhythm of ordinary life during that time. Today, this cent continues to be studied and appreciated, not only for its design, but for the historical period it represents. It stands as a small, yet meaningful artifact of American history, linking the legacy of Abraham Lincoln with the everyday experiences of the people who once used it. Because of its long time in circulation, the 1962 Lincoln 1 cent became familiar in ways few objects ever do. People rarely noticed it, yet it was always there, resting in pockets, counting trays and small change purses. This quiet presence allowed the coin to absorb the marks of everyday life, turning each piece into a subtle record of the era it passed through. These pennies witnessed economic changes, rising prices, and shifting habits of daily trade, while their face value remained the same. By the time these 1-cent coins began fading from everyday use, they had already carried decades of stories in their worn copper surfaces of a nation growing, changing, and moving forward, one small coin at a time. Sometimes, the smallest coin in your pocket holds the biggest history. And that's why this 1-cent coin might be worth far more than you ever imagined. The 1965 United States 1-cent coin belongs to the historic Lincoln cent series that began in 1909 to honor the centennial of President Abraham Lincoln's birth, establishing a profound transformation in American coinage by introducing the portrait of a real historical figure onto a regularly circulating coin for the first time in national history. Designed by sculptor Victor David Brenner, the obverse features Lincoln in right-facing profile with a solemn, contemplative expression that has endured as a visual symbol of leadership, sacrifice, and unity, accompanied by the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," formally adopted as the national motto in 1956, yet present on coinage since the Civil War era, and liberty, a foundational principle woven into the ideological fabric of the United States since its founding. While the date 1965 appears beneath the portrait without a mint mark, reflecting a unique historical circumstance during which mint marks were temporarily removed from U.S. coinage to discourage hoarding and speculation amid widespread coin shortages, thereby granting the 1965 cent a distinctive place within numismatic chronology as a product of economic tension and federal intervention. The year 1965 occupies a critical chapter in American monetary history, as the nation faced a severe coin shortage caused by rising silver prices, increased demand for coinage in a growing consumer economy, and the widespread public practice of hoarding older silver coins, whose intrinsic metal value was beginning to exceed their face value. In response, Congress enacted the Coinage Act of 1965, landmark legislation that eliminated silver from circulating dimes and quarters and reduced silver content in half dollars, while also authorizing the mint to continue striking coins dated 1964 into 1965 to stabilize supply, and significantly, the act mandated the temporary removal of mint marks from coins dated 1965 through 1967 in order to reduce the perceived collectible distinction between facilities. Thus, the 1965 Lincoln cent bears no mint mark, even though production occurred at multiple mints, symbolizing a deliberate governmental strategy to restore confidence and normalize circulation patterns within a strained monetary system. The reverse of the 1965 cent features the Lincoln Memorial design, introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, created by chief engraver Frank Gus, whose architectural rendering of the neoclassical monument in Washington, D.C., conveys solemnity, permanence, and national reverence, framed by the inscriptions United States of America, e pluribus unum, and 1 cent. The design subtly includes the seated statue of Lincoln, visible between the central columns, creating a remarkable numismatic phenomenon in which the same historical figure appears on both sides of the coin, reinforcing thematic unity and commemorative depth while elevating the cent beyond mere transactional utility into a compact artistic tribute to presidential legacy and constitutional endurance. In 1965, the Lincoln cent retained its traditional bronze composition of 95% copper, with 5% tin and zinc, weighing approximately 3.11 grams and measuring 19.05 millimeters in diameter, representing the final full decade before economic pressures would later compel a shift to copper-plated zinc. In 1982, this bronze alloy, rich in intrinsic metal content, provided durability, warm coloration, and resistance to corrosion, and it connects the 1965 cent metallurgically to earlier 20th century issues that circulated through the Great Depression, World War II, and the post-war industrial boom, thereby preserving continuity in material substance, even as the broader coinage system underwent sweeping legislative reform. The production of 1965 cents reached extraordinarily high levels, with billions struck to alleviate shortages and ensure adequate distribution across the expanding national marketplace, reflecting the mint's intensified operational tempo during a period of fiscal urgency. Although lacking mint marks, archival records confirm that both the Philadelphia and Denver mints participated in production, and the absence of identifying letters transformed these coins into uniform instruments of commerce rather than objects of regional distinction, a policy decision intended to suppress speculative accumulation and restore equilibrium within everyday circulation channels that had been destabilized by collector enthusiasm and bullion-driven hoarding behaviors. Historically, the 1965 cent circulated during a transformative era marked by the presidency of Lyndon B. Johnson, the advancement of civil rights legislation, the escalation of the Vietnam War, and sweeping social reforms under the Great Society programs, situating the coin within a dynamic socio-political landscape characterized by both aspiration and upheaval. While the cent itself bears no explicit political inscription beyond enduring national mottos, it passed through countless hands in grocery stores, factories, schools, and post offices, silently participating in the economic rhythms of a nation grappling with profound change, thereby serving as a tangible artifact of mid-1960s American life and a durable witness to the interplay between policy, society, and commerce. From a numismatic perspective, collectors value the 1965 cent in uncirculated condition with full red luster, as the copper alloy's natural oxidation often transforms its bright surface into brown tones over decades of exposure, and pristine specimens free from contact marks, discoloration, or environmental damage command greater appreciation within grading frameworks that evaluate strike sharpness, surface preservation, and aesthetic integrity. While common in circulated form due to its vast mint, the coin's historical context, composition, and temporary absence of mint marks elevate it beyond ordinary status, rendering it an instructive example of how legislative action, economic necessity, and artistic continuity converge within a single small denomination. The 1965 Lincoln cent thus embodies a convergence of tradition and adaptation, retaining Brenner's iconic portrait and Gasparo's memorial reverse, while simultaneously reflecting the emergency monetary reforms of the Coinage Act 1965, standing as both a continuation of a lineage inaugurated in 1909 and a marker of mid-transformation. Its bronze substance, monumental imagery, and historically significant absence of mint identification encapsulate themes of resilience, reform, and reverence, ensuring that this modest coin remains an enduring testament to Abraham Lincoln's symbolic presence in American civic identity and to the capacity of national institutions to respond pragmatically to economic challenge while preserving artistic and historical continuity. And there you have it. 10 incredible pennies, each carrying decades of history, secrets, and untold stories. From the 1960s to the 1980s, every coin tells a journey of America's past. But the story doesn't end here. Imagine what hidden treasures are still out there waiting to be discovered. Don't miss your chance to uncover more. Subscribe and join us as we dive deeper into the fascinating world of rare coins.